So take us through step by step. How does an actor win an Emmy Award?
How does an actor win an Emmy Award? By hitching your wagon to really good writing.
That was 6-time Emmy Award-winning actor Bryan Cranston, and you heard his advice. Great acting requires great writing. So for this very special episode of In the Envelope, an awards podcast, we are going behind the camera to talk to 2 writer-producers about what makes great television and how that translates to a great award-winning performance. My name is Jack Smart, awards editor at Backstage, your guide to the acting industry and the most trusted name in casting. Stick around as we talk to 2 of the contenders from the 2017 Emmy race. This season of In the Envelope is brought to you by HBO. I wanted to ask you, who would you thank in your awards acceptance speech?
Oh.
Have you thought about this? Because I have. You would thank the Academy. You can start with that.
Okay. You're really going to baby step me through this process.
You start by thanking the Academy.
Yeah, thank all the people that are going to help advance my career in the future.
Yes.
That's rule number 1.
Go.
And then my parents, and then, or maybe my wife, and then my parents. And then...
I would also thank my wife. I don't have a wife. Listeners, I don't have a wife. But yeah, parents, important.
Well, basically, you just want to thank all the people that are going to be annoyed if you don't thank them. Isn't that really the policy?
That's actually a really, really good strategy. The art, I think there is an art in giving an acceptance speech. I think it's an art that Bryan Cranston, for one, several of the people we talked to, but David Harbour has mastered the art, yes, of giving an awards acceptance
It helps
speech.
having Winona Ryder stood next to you.
Yes, making it even more. Yeah, that was such an amazing speech.
Yeah.
And I think of people like Meryl Streep is very good at giving speeches because she's had a lot of practice. And Viola Davis gives amazing awards acceptance speeches. And yeah, it's an art form that not many actors get to practice, but it requires...
I'm sure they do practice.
Well, that's the thing.
In the mirror.
Yeah. Maybe that's also part of, being an actor is you're supposed to practice the acceptance speech.
I think it's a bit like the red carpet as well, isn't it? They talk about having a different mindset for the red carpet, for acceptance speeches.
Yeah.
It's all part of the job.
It is a little bit of an acting exercise to take on the red carpet and to pretend to have that confidence. We've talked about that with a couple people on this show. But also, maybe ascending the stage as an Emmy winner requires you to put on a bit of a character or get into the right mindset of someone.
Do you think they walk up a lot of steps in preparation?
Yeah. They try to simulate the adrenaline rush of that moment.
Yeah.
I imagine. It must be such a rush.
Can you win? You can't win a technical Emmy for podcasting, can you? Yet? Or can you?
No, but I feel like that's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
We'll get there.
We won't get to the main ceremony, but we'll get to one.
Yeah, there are several precursor ceremonies that we might be eligible for. Oh, great. Good. We're submitting ourselves for Emmys. This is perfect.
We're getting slightly ahead of ourselves. Episode
really
5. Whatever one we're on now.
Yeah. Jamie, talk to me about Breaking Bad.
Well, prior to this conversation, you said I have 12 seconds to speak about it, so I got I've used about 7
We want to get
already.
to our interview with Bryan Cranston.
Okay, yeah, it's great. You should
One of the
watch
greatest TV shows of all time, writing, directing, acting, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. It was the first show where I really appreciated a sort of character-driven narrative. And you sort of have to appreciate that in the first season, I think, because it's a slog. It's relentlessly...
Yeah.
I want to say depressing, but, obviously the subject matter is dark and bleak.
But it is.
But the characters are so strong, and it's so impressive as a show, how it doesn't just come out the blocks and just dazzle you. It makes you stick it out.
Sure.
Which makes the payoffs even more powerful.
Right.
And what I really loved about the show was how they just teased you and teased you and teased you, and it got, just when you thought there was going to be a resolution to something, they pulled it that bit further. And so when the payoffs did happen, it was just explosive. Literally.
Literally explosive.
At some point.
Yeah, the thing about that show for me is the performances. I mean, it's every aspect of the show, but the performances like exemplify it for me of like, it's such an ambitious storytelling project.
Yeah.
And the actors are consistently so fearless. And I imagine every time I try to put myself in their shoes, Bryan Cranston's performance is one of those that makes me think like, I could never, ever be an actor. Why would you try to compare? How could you compare yourself to that kind of performance? And it's because he is given these insane scenarios. He's given these incredibly high stakes and these hard...
Hello there, Jamie here. We did end up talking about Breaking Bad for quite a long time, so in order to get on with the podcast, I'm going to cut us off right there, and after a quick break, Jack will be introducing our first guest, Alan Yang. Thanks.
This episode is brought to you by HBO's original comedy series Insecure, starring Issa Rae. Insecure explores the black female experience through two best friends. Issa and Molly must deal with their own real-life flaws as they attempt to navigate different worlds and cope with an endless series of uncomfortable everyday experiences. For your Emmy consideration in Outstanding Comedy Series and all other categories. Alan Yang is a screenwriter, producer, and sometimes actor who got his start on NBC's Parks and Recreation, where he met Aziz Ansari, and the two went on to co-create, co-produce, co-write, and often direct the Netflix series Master of None. Last year, they won the Emmy Award for Outstanding Writing of a Comedy Series. Here it is, my interview with Alan Yang. So congratulations on all the shows. Amazing success.
Thanks.
What's it been like the second time around, the promoting, the publicity side of things? Are you used to it by now?
Yeah, I'm pretty used to it. Season 2, there's been significantly more press than season 1. You know, I think people saw the first season and did not absolutely loathe it. So yeah, they want to talk about it more. And
how much of that has to do with the Emmys?
Some of it, some of it. I think it doesn't hurt, man. It doesn't hurt. It definitely is the thing where, we didn't know, if we get nominated or anything like that, and so that was exciting. And it, the most important thing it does is it gets the show out there more. Where it's like, okay, yeah, this is a thing, and like people like it, like you should watch it.
Right.
So yeah, anything that helps more people watch the show.
Right. And that's mostly because a lot of people watch the Emmy Awards ceremony itself, and so you guys used that platform to promote the show, but also just being an Emmy-winning show has that level of prestige that kind of ups the...
Yeah, it's good. I guess it's better to win than to lose. It's all good, man. It's all good.
Yeah. And so going into season 2 with the kind of more eyeballs and more attention, do you come up with a different strategy to promote with your team?
To promote, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we put on the poster like the Emmy award-winning whatever comes back. That's all marketing stuff. Like we're involved in that stuff, but we have good people working on it now too. But we are involved because we're control freaks. But yeah.
And so I want to ask too about like what does it mean to be a producer? Like, is that basically you're just a professional control freak?
Yeah, pretty much, man. I mean, like being a EP on the show, being the showrunner of the show is to me. You have a vision in your head of what you want the show to be, and then the producing part is how do you get that done? And it's your vision, and you just work as hard as you possibly can to execute something that comes as close to that vision as possible. And it takes a huge team of people to do it, and no one makes the show all by themselves. So it's all these people working together.
But that vision is not one person's vision. Like you say, there's a huge team of people, but it's mostly the vision part is you and Aziz, correct?
Yeah, for sure. We just talk to each other ad nauseum, even before the writers meet, definitely before we're shooting, definitely before we're editing.
Yeah.
But before anyone talks about it, me and Aziz talk about it together and bounce ideas off each other and talk about stuff that's happened to us. But yeah, it's all part of it, man.
And not just stuff that's happened to you. I'm sure you guys also do that thing where you share pieces of art, pieces of filmmaking that you discover or that you love or that you want to evoke?
Music, all of it. Yeah. I mean, this year was
music too.
I mean, some of the stuff's very clear where it's, it's Antonioni and De Sica and Fellini.
Cool.
But there's all sorts of stuff for sure.
I mean, how long is that list of influences?
Man, it's getting really crazy because recently, so when we're working on the show, we don't really have time to do it. But in the last month or two, I've really gone crazy with the sort of just canonical classic films because, I've seen some of them before. You see them, in school, like I took film classes. But now that you've made some stuff, like you watch them with a new eye, So we did a thing actually at the Metrograph Theater, which is an art house theater that's pretty close to where I live, and it's my favorite theater because I'm just there all the time. And they did a good job with it. But they asked Aziz and they asked me and Aziz to pick some movies to play. So we got to program a few movies, which is great. Nice. So last night I picked Tokyo Story by Ozu, and I went and introduced it, and that's cool. Crazy. That's like our favorite thing right now is just watching these classic movies. So I've gone on a big kick recently.
And what is that process like? You take a movie like that, and you obviously you sit down with Aziz and you have a million conversations about how you can use that influence. But is it then a question of like, how do we use this story or this style in Dev's world? Yeah.
I mean, some of them are very explicit, right? I mean, the Bicycle Thieves is very explicit. A lot of the other ones, it's more like a feeling. It's like, the performances in a Linklater movie or the ambiguity at the end of, The Graduate or whatever. We talk about just the feeling of some of these movies, and it might not be an explicit homage in the sense of it's black and white and it's shot the same way or it's framed the same way, but it's more like, well, how did he or she direct these actors, and how did how does the tone of this movie inspire us, or or the look of a movie,
Yeah, but tone is so. I mean, that's something that you can't categorize. You can't like get specific about it. How much of that is like directing?
Yeah, I think tone is really something that's really hard to put your arms around.
Yeah.
That's a thing where it's the whole piece. It's really from front to back. It's everything you're doing. You're imbuing the thing with tone. Production design, cinematography, obviously writing, directing, acting. Right. But it's all part of it. I actually think I don't know. I really, it wasn't a conscious thing for us saying we want to establish this tone. But we've always just had it in our heads of what we like, and what it ends up being is fairly naturalistic. I mean, if you watch this show, it's not super joke heavy. It's not really broad. I mean, there's a couple of broader things, but it's mostly pretty grounded, and there's some optimism in it. I mean, there's a lot of sadness, but there's generally, I think, a little bit of a warmth and an optimism in the show. Yeah.
It's joyful.
Yeah, there's joy, man. There's a lot of hugs and belly bumping and stuff. There's sadness too, but there's genuine friendship. There's warmth between the family members, and there's romantic love, and the good things in life. A lot of food shots.
So many food shots. That's what everyone is saying about season 2.
Yeah,
also.
it's out of control.
Super focused on the food.
Yeah.
Does the food fall under that list of many, many influences?
The food, man, it is so crazy. I mean, this food is one of the reasons Aziz and me became friends.
Oh, yeah?
It's like, we met on Parks and Recreation, and, we were both kind of the younger people on the show. We were like 25 or something like that. And,
wow.
And we were single. We like to go out to eat. So I was like, you got to eat with someone. So I ate a lot of meals with Aziz. It was a lot of like just going out in LA and, maybe go to a party or like going to dinner with your friends.
Yeah.
And we just really got into food, like really naturally, like, and so it's talked about a lot in the show, but I would say not any more so than it's talked about in our real lives. So that's why like, we genuinely feel that way,
Your lives revolve around food that much.
Yes, it's crazy. We just care a lot. We just read about food and send each other links and stuff.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
And so that's how you got to know him. That's how you guys started to share your stories?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. Well, the parent stuff came later, but yeah, I mean, for a long time when we were in parks, it was just like, yeah, we like to hang out, and then we started traveling a lot with each other, with our friends and stuff, and we really like doing that, you know. So we were lucky enough because we both worked the same show. Our hiatuses were the same, so our breaks were the same.
Right.
We like to work hard. As weird as that sounds, is like we can't like. To me, the biggest thing is one of the biggest things on the show is like not settling and not saying that's good enough. You know, if he'll say something's not good enough, I'll say something else is not good enough, and let's just keep let's get to the highest level we can. You know, that we possibly can. You don't want to look back with regrets and say, well, we could have made that better if we had just tried harder. You know, we just want to avoid that.
Yeah, and that's what you're saying about being a control freak.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very detail oriented, and you know, I think it's a very fun show to work on. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, as you can tell from some of the episodes, like it's really fun. And also the other thing is you get to do it with your friends, and Aziz's case, some of his family. You know, so it's like, what a dream. You know, you get to work with, you know, Aziz is my good friend, Eric's my good friend, Aniz was on set a lot. He's my good friend. A lot of the writers are my friends, and it's amazing.
And so, I've always kind of wondered with these dream partnerships that just look, of course, they look so much fun, but they also just create such amazing work. And like you say, up the standard and ask a lot of each other. How do you guys navigate when you disagree? Because of course you're going to have conflicting tastes or conflicting decisions. Yeah. And how do you settle that?
Well, first of all, it doesn't happen as often as you might think, crazily. Yeah. We just have similar sensibilities. I think for whatever reason, now that we've known each other this long, you know, we just tend to agree on the big stuff. That's the important stuff, like the big stuff. And the other thing is, when we do disagree, we don't take things personally. What's really cool, one of my favorite things about Aziz is he doesn't have an ego when it comes to making the thing as good as it can be. He doesn't want to go his way just because it's his way. He genuinely wants to talk about what's best for the show. And I'm the same way, you know. I feel like I'm actually a pretty easy guy to get along with. But it's you know, sometimes we disagree on stuff, and then we'll yell at each other. But it's not like really yelling. It's not like I say yell at each other. I mean that figuratively, because it's like, no, we'll talk about it. It's like, no, you're right. Or the great thing is on set we can do stuff both ways, you know. Oh, sure. And then we're in the editing room. Then you're kind of making the decision, and we argue about stuff. But then we also have a third party come in and watch. We'll have Eric watch, or we'll have our editors watch, or we'll have a producer watch, and that's fun too. So the bottom line is, like, just don't make it personal. And like, it's not when I criticize something where I'm criticizing the thing, he understands that. When he criticizes something, you know, he's not criticizing me. We know we respect the hell out of each other. So it's not, you know, it's never like you're insulting me. It's like, we just don't feel that way. You know, we just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, you can criticize like the decisions or the acts. That
does, you're like, I don't think this works. Yeah, it's like, this could be funnier. Like, let's make it better. That's all. Yeah,
and that's what you're saying about having like the big, strong group, the team of people that you can trust and you can rely on is key. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
To have that occasional third party.
Yes, and it's been such a pleasure. I feel like a big part of the show is your first season. Are you hiring the right people? Yeah, and we hired. So many of the people we hired were the right people, which was really helpful for season 2. We just, all right, these people are great. You know, all of our big positions, you know, they're just, you know, our producer, Igor, and production designer, Amy, and cinematographer, Mark, and right on down the line, our ADs, like, they're all great. And so that really helps.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask how much of season 2, you know, especially when you have a hit season 1 and it's on a buzzy network like Netflix.
Yep.
Like, how much of that is going back to the drawing board? And it sounds like with the team and with who you're deciding on working with, that's not on the table of things to have to decide.
Well, if they're doing a good job, you stick with them, man. That's really helpful, because one of the things we wanted to do content-wise with season 2 is take risks and be different and be more ambitious than season 1. But what helped us do that is we also weren't revamping the whole team. You know, it was like we had great personnel, and we knew we had a better idea of what we were doing in New York, and so that took some pressure off that and allowed us to really experiment.
Were there mistakes you learned from season 1?
You know, I'm sure that we made a ton of mistakes, and like it's just.
Or if not mistakes, then, you know, things do you have regrets or?
I mean, I think basically what we did season 2 is we just went bigger with stuff, and I think the stuff that we liked the best in season 1 was the most aggressive and experimental and original stuff. You know, it's, you know, the episode, a lot of people talked about the parents episode or the mornings episode, and those episodes were a little bit, they were deviations. You know, they you know, one of them starts with, you know, a whole act of flashbacks and, you know, to 1950s India and Taiwan, and the other one takes place over the course of a year. So we were kind of inspired by those episodes to go bolder in season 2.
And that was just based on the reactions, the buzz that you heard.
Yeah, for sure, and like reviews and yeah.
So you do pay attention to those things.
We do, yeah. You know, the other, this is a very mundane reason, but the one reason is you want to look. You make the show and you spend 1.5 years of your life on it, and it's nice to hear what people think.
Yeah.
Besides your friends and your family who are going to be nice.
Even if it can be painful.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know. I guess maybe I just read too much internet, but I read that stuff. And there's another very mundane reason, which is, you know, when we have to submit for award stuff, there's promotional stuff, and it's good to read the reviews to know which ones to use or whatever quotes to use.
Oh, so you're on that side of marketing as well, of like...
Dude, I told you we're control freaks, man.
Yeah. You gotta find just the right
I don't
quote.
think every showrunner is doing that, but we care because it represents the show.
Yeah. And what you're talking to about the tone, does tone extend to marketing? I feel like you got to decide what words go on that poster and what images.
Yeah, it was, you know, we last season, you know, some of the stuff didn't seem exactly in the tone of the show. It was like, oh, let's work on this and make it like really, because, you know, a lot of people first exposure to the show is the trailer or the poster or a piece of advertising. And it's like, you want to make sure, number one, that it looks like the show, but number two, you don't want to misrepresent the show, because if it's the trailer looks like it's a really big goofy comedy and then they watch it, they'll be mad. So don't make it like that, you know. Don't don't pretend it's something else. Like, make it look like it's and feel like the show.
Yeah, and I love that the notion that Master of None is, it really is television. Like, I feel like maybe even some Netflix shows that drop all at once are just really long movies. A lot of mini-series or basically 8-hour movies.
Yes.
But Master of None, it seems like you guys have really made a concerted effort, especially with these tangential episodes, would you call them?
Yeah.
That you guys are making an effort to carve 30-minute episodes. Of course, there's a plot and there's a run-through with the storyline, but this is real television. Yeah,
it's a thing we talked about. I mean, it's just how we feel like the show works well.
Yeah.
And we did that. That is actually something we carried over from season 1, where we thought it worked well, that, you know, this episode can be about anything and it can be about a specific topic that we're interested in. And I think some of it comes from the fact that we're curious about a lot of different things. So if something interests us, let's do a whole episode about it and really dig into it. And what's nice about it is also fairly digestible. You don't feel like I have to watch 9 hours of this thing. I can watch 30 minutes and it's kind of complete. And some of these episodes are standalones, you know. It's like and there is lightly serialized stuff, and we like that stuff too. And I think that helps people continue to watch, so it's not all disconnected. But
you want a little bit of a binge-worthy.
Yeah, there's I think there's merit to that too. But by the way, there's shows that don't do that and are also bingeable. So who knows?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the approach that they're all just. Would you consider them all short films, quote unquote?
Yeah, I mean, call them what you will. It's certainly like we have credits for each one, and we have new. The best. One of my favorite things about the show is every episode has its own theme song, which is great. Like, that's amazing to me.
Yeah, that's super disjointed.
It's just
in the
fun.
Best way.
It's fun.
Yeah. Talk me through the advice for aspiring TV writers aspect of things.
Yeah.
No one path is the right path, of course.
I know. That's the thing. It's like, I wish I could be like, well, go to school and get a degree in writing and then you'll get a job.
There's
it's like,
no step-by-step to winning an Emmy, for example.
That stuff is truly unpredictable. Like that. I mean, that so much is out of your control for that. So, look, there's no magic bullet, man. I give the most... This is the most cliched, boring advice, but it really is. If you're a writer, right? You know, just do it. Wake up in the morning and write. If you have a full-time job, wake up before work and write. Or do it after work. You know, like if you have a family, like try to carve out a half an hour and make stuff. Just make stuff, and that's how you get better. Because, like when I was talking about that vision in your head, it's like you have an idea.
Yeah.
And when you start, you're not good at making that idea. You're not good at executing it. I mean, look, some people are geniuses, fine. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about people like you and me who are normal people, just trying to do the best they can. You have an idea, and hopefully you have good taste, and it's a good idea. Right. Now, you try to execute that idea and write the script, write the novel, or whatever it is. The first one you do is probably going to be bad.
So bad.
And then you read that one again, and you have your friends read it. Hopefully you have some smart friends, and they can tell you what's good and bad about it. And then you have another day, and then you write another script. Right. And, when I was first starting out, I probably wrote 10 spec scripts without ever working on a real it's like you write a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And then the 10th one was probably marginally less bad than the first one. And so, now I'm hundreds of scripts in, and I'm not quite as bad as I was when I did the first one. And there's no other way to get good at something. It's just try to do it every day. It's a goal. Some people are able to do it. I can't write every day. You need time off, but people who do are good. The people who are good are crazy. They're crazy. Yeah. They do it all the time, and they're really good.
Yeah. What are your writing habits? I love asking writers
what they do. So, to me, the hardest part and the biggest part of it, and I don't think this is any surprise, is breaking the story, figuring out, and what that means in very simple terms is what happens. Like, what happens?
Cool.
And I like
the bones of
yes, I like figuring out as much of that as possible. So certainly for the show, it's fun because it's more collaborative. When I'm alone, then you're kind of doing that, and you're on an island, and to me, I walk around New York and think and think, and then maybe I'll have a notebook and write some stuff down quickly. But to me, it can all a lot of it can get built in your head. Get built in your head. To me, it gets built in your head before you write stuff down, and then you remember what you like the best, and you can write it down, and you have notes, and you have pages and pages of notes before you start doing anything.
Yeah.
And so once you have a bunch of loose ideas, your favorite stuff, character ideas, scene ideas, to me, you should have tons of that stuff. What the idea of what the world is, and your basic story, the biggest parts of your story, maybe the beginning or the end or both. And then you could start writing in some kind of very loose, rudimentary outline, or treatment, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
What happens in the story in very simple terms. On Parks and Rec, Mike and Greg would call it a Goldilocks, which is this is the very simple version of the story. The idea being Goldilocks is a very simple story. What if this were a fairy tale or something? How would you write it out? Just write it in prose. Cool. You don't have to write dialogue. You can if you want, but just very simply put down what the story is. Then you have
start from there.
Yeah, a little document that is basically the story. Then talk to other people and tell them the story, and the parts that you don't remember or don't hit are probably not the best parts, and make them better. And so you refine that, and then you turn that little document into a bigger document that's an outline, and then you have an outline that might have some dialogue. You might put some of that in script form. And to me, once you have a really, really good outline, that's the writing part of it. That's you're almost done.
Totally.
To me, the pages are a joy. To me, writing the dialogue, I really like writing dialogue. At that point, I can just go.
Yeah, because you have the structure.
You have the structure, you have the story, and your problems. When you have a bad script, the problems are not the script. The problems are the Goldilocks. The problem is the 2-page thing you wrote at the very beginning.
Yeah.
That.
So sometimes you got to go back.
You got to go back first to the outline, and then maybe start over. Yeah. And that happens. We have episodes where it's it didn't work. We have whole scripts we threw out. Whole scripts, and we have
hours and hours of work.
And we have ones that were totally rewritten. There's an episode called "Ladies and Gentlemen" from season 1, where we had Aziz and I wrote a script. It's kind of about the feminism. There's that opening montage
of walking
on the street. Yeah, and that script was totally rewritten. Aziz and I wrote a draft. It was this isn't good. This is wrong. This is not correct for the show. Huh. We totally rewrote it, and the result was much better than what the original draft was. It was just way better.
It's so funny because I've talked to so many actors in general, but also for this podcast, and they all do say something along the lines of, when you go out and you audition for a lot of things, you're going to get maybe 5 out of every 100 auditions you go to. You're going to get mostly just rejections.
Yes.
And it's almost like the writing process is similar.
Yes. I would say I don't envy actors because that's such a visceral rejection. Yes. You know what I mean? But
it's you yourself being rejected.
It's you yourself being rejected, and it feels that way, and it's not necessarily that way because you never know what role's right for which person, but or vice versa. But there's a little bit of a microcosm of that. And I mean that even in a very one-to-one way, where as a writer, you're submitting to a bunch of shows, or you're trying to get your movie made.
Sure.
You're getting 99% rejection. For Master of None, I'll read 100 scripts and we'll hire 2 writers. It's the same thing where it's you know, you're getting read a lot of places, and you're not getting a lot of jobs. Like that's just, there's only so many jobs to go around. But the same thing happens in the writer's room too. It's like you're pitching a million things, and one of them is going to make them in the script. You know, that's life.
And you just got to be okay with. You got to know that there's going to be a lot of rejections, or you got to know that 99% of all that it's just going to end up in the waste bin.
Yes, it's not. It's not. I mean, I can't think of a job where you always succeed, but you know, there's not even. It's a very minuscule hit rate. Like it's really like I understand. You know how much rejection actors get because it's a more intimate, visceral way of getting rejected for sure. And you're exposing yourself. You're very vulnerable. Like a writer, it's all on the page. You don't see them reject you. You just don't get a call from your agent. You know, or you call your agent and you say, "Did I get?" And they say no.
Right. And I get what you're saying about it. Of course, it feels more personal. It's you yourself.
It's your face, your body. They didn't like how I acted. They didn't like how I talked. Like that's
me myself.
That's personal. That's personal.
That's true. I mean, because we're backstage, we're always asking people for that advice. I mean, what do you tell actors? What you've done on the casting side.
We've done a lot of casting. So, we do. You know, we have I would say we have a fairly light touch with casting. What I mean by that is, we're trying to cast for kind of the essence of who people are. And what I mean by that is, as I said earlier, it's a very naturalistic show. I mean, to the point where Aziz's parents, who aren't actors, are in the show, and we know they're not Laurence Olivier and you know, and Meryl Streep.
Right.
But the point is that there's some sort of essence of that person, some sort of emotional truth to their performance that resonates to us. And that's a very difficult thing to necessarily pin down and say, that's what I'm looking for. But we tend to like when actors come in and they're not, you know, obviously not chewing the scenery or going really big with stuff.
Right.
And, you know, obviously actors need to make choices, and everyone makes choices, whether you're playing it very small or very big, you're making a choice. But we tend to like when people feel like some version of themselves generally. I mean, that's for the most part like what we do in the show. That's just our show, and that's not what every show is.
Your show is set in the modern day, and it's
yes.
real people.
It's real people, and honestly, Aziz plays a version of himself, and Eric plays a version of himself, and Lena plays a version of herself, and Kelvin plays a version of himself. You know, and you know, so. You know, I know that means maybe you're not doing some crazy choice, but it's not easy to do. It's not easy to act natural. It's not easy to act. It's one of the most difficult things
Absolutely.
to do. So yeah, we like when someone just presents some version of themselves and naturally is charismatic, naturally is funny, naturally really delivers emotion and all of that stuff. Again, it's easier said than done. Hey, come in and play it naturally. It's not that easy.
No. And then you immediately start being like, wait, how am I natural? What am I supposed to do with my hands?
It's like, don't think about a red elephant. You know, it's like, oh, I'm only thinking about the red elephant now.
Right. Well, and I'm curious too, because this episode that won you the Emmy was about very personal things. It was about your lives. And so we're talking about acting for one thing and putting yourself out there and like possibly getting rejected, and in fact, the fact that writers have to go through that too. But is it different when you're just inventing these scenarios and they're fantastical and they're different, as opposed to I'm going to write my parents' story?
I find the latter to be very satisfying. You know, we do a fair amount of invention on the show. There's tons of stuff that is complete fiction. But there's something about those real stories that you can't beat, or you can't fake it for some reason. For some reason, the details matter. You know what I mean?
The
like
details.
Those are what give the story life and personality, and give you that level of verisimilitude, because it's just. It was real, like all that, you know. That stuff in the Parents episode, I've said before, but like that stuff happened to my dad. He told me that weird chicken story, and he told me about not getting served at a diner and all that stuff. Like that stuff happened, and when you write it and film it and watch it, you're like, wow, it does feel real, because it is. You know, there's something to that. So, as much as possible, the show is that sort of mix of real stuff that's happened, and you know, crossbred with our narrative to make it, you know, a compelling, to give it structure. Because I also, you know, I'm not really interested in in just, oh, here's a bunch of scenes. Like, to me, there's
or
merit to that.
About,
exactly. That's a different kind of show where it's like kind of slice of life, and it's. But I like there to be a narrative. I like there to be a beginning, middle, and end, and whether it's an open-ended ending or not, or whether it's a I don't like things being wrapped up in a bow, but some kind of ending that implies some sort of emotional journey has been taken.
So it's about shaping those real events
into some sort of coherent narrative, both on a per episode basis and for the whole season. Both of those things are important. So there's a lot of things to juggle.
For sure. Well, and that also brings it back to the quote unquote diversity question.
Yeah.
Like you're saying specificity and detail is what gives those stories life.
Yes.
Rather than just a typical, like a blanket Asian story.
Yeah.
The Asian American experience.
Yeah.
That's not a thing.
No. And by the way, there's a lot of different kinds of Asian people. Think about Asia. Asia's huge. There's billions of people in Asia.
And it's true that Hollywood just doesn't always represent that.
Yes.
Or reflect that.
Yeah, and I think it's the thing where, I also get asked, does it matter if it's Asian American or Indian American or people of color behind the camera? And look, I never want to prescribe and preach and say, you can't write people who don't look like you, because of course you're going to. You're going to write. But I will say there's been such a lack of representation behind the camera in the past that, yes, I think it's a good thing, because there's certain things that, there's a certain way Aziz and I do see the world probably a tiny bit differently from people who don't look like us, just because that's our specific experience. He was an Indian kid growing up in Bennettsville, South Carolina, and I was an Asian kid growing up in Riverside, California, which is very much not L.A. And there weren't that many people who looked like me there. Is it every part of our life? No. Is some part of our life? Yes. It's
right.
It does impact how you look at the world.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard it said that to make a great writer, you just make them grow up in a place where they feel a little bit out of place all the time.
Look, I think outsiders make good art, man. Outsiders make good art.
Not just writers,
Yeah, because it's like, look, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of popular people who made good art too. And by the way, I wasn't not popular. I did fine. I wasn't like an outcast.
It's not like all losers.
No, exactly. Yeah, but look, I learned to navigate sort of allotted worlds of people who didn't necessarily look like me. I have more Asian friends now than I ever have, because I live in a city with a lot of Asian people. I had to get along with a lot of people who looked, a lot of different ways. That's growing up. There's a lot of diversity in my high school, and which was kind of cool. Yeah. So that was really good.
Yeah, and I just love that you were able to pour that into your art, and specifically into that episode, and that episode then won you this Emmy that also allowed you to pour. I mean, you just gave a terrific Emmy speech.
Thanks.
Just gangbusters. Because you got up there and you totally spoke from the heart, but in a way that I think opened a lot of people's eyes.
I was really happy that people responded to that speech, and it's just a small thing. It's just a dumb award show speech, but people see that. People see that, and if you're a kid, when I was a kid, I didn't see people who looked like me on TV. I just didn't.
Nope.
There were just very few, and so it's a process.
Too few.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're doing better. But if there's little Asian kids who can now see our show, or if you're a black gay woman and you see the show, or if it's like if you're a Muslim kid and you see the show, like that's not the worst thing in the world. That's it helps. It does help.
Well, you and Aziz are fighting the good fight.
Thanks, man.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
I think we have to wrap up, but thank you, Alan.
Cool.
So much for coming by.
Flew by. Had a great time.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
This episode is brought to you by HBO's original drama series, Westworld. Westworld is a dark odyssey about the dawn of artificial consciousness and the evolution of sin. Set at the intersection of the near future and the reimagined past, it explores a world in which every human appetite, no matter how noble or depraved, can be indulged. For your Emmy consideration in Outstanding Drama Series and all other categories. Bryan Cranston is joining us on the line. Bryan Cranston, you may have heard of him, has 14 Emmy nominations and 6 wins for his astonishing performance as Walter White in AMC's Breaking Bad.
plus a Tony Award, an Oscar nomination, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on and on. Bryan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
I would love to hear about your role in Sneaky Pete and how it came about, because I understand it may be the first television show in existence to come about because of an awards acceptance speech.
Yeah, maybe. I hadn't thought about that. Usually you get an award for doing a series. I got a series for getting an award. I had been very fortunate, and I wanted to go up and if I was going to win, say something about the circuitous route that I took to get there, and that I didn't always know what I wanted. I was a kind of a sneaky kid. I looked for the shortcut, and perhaps due to a broken family and abandonment and some alcohol issues from my parents, and it's like it kind of splintered. And so I was kind of adrift, and I was looking for the shortcut and trying to circumvent my responsibilities. And I would go into school and say, okay, what do I need to get a C in this class? And then I would reach for the stars to get the C. And then I knew that's done. Okay. I didn't have any incentive, and I didn't have any direction. And so the rest of my family, I think it was my uncle who dubbed me Sneaky Pete. And I thought, wow, really? And so they were calling me Sneaky Pete. And that stuck until I was 21 and discovered acting and fell in love. Fell in love. And I then devoted my attention to it and realized, with all the effort I had on trying to avoid responsibility and look for the shortcut, had I just put my energies into doing the work, I would have been a lot further along. And I found something I'm passionate about, and it really has brought me terrific joy. And so my message to the audience was, if that's you, if you were a Sneaky Pete, if you have been floundering and haven't found your way, maybe reintroduce yourself to that thing that brought you joy. And it doesn't have to be professional, but just whatever it is that gives you empowerment. And I hope you find it. And thank you very much, and good night. So it was something like that. It was extemporaneous, so I never saw the speech. So the next day, I get a call from Zach Van Amberg and congratulating me on the Emmy. And I said, well, thank you very much. And he said, by the way, I think Sneaky Pete would be a good show. And I said, what show? What is it? What do you mean? What's it about? And he goes, I have no idea, but I think it'd be a good show. And he left me with a little nugget that was enough of a seed to build on. And that was, you were barely 21 when you found the alternative to being a Sneaky Pete. But what if you never found that? What if you're 35 years old and you're still a Sneaky Pete? Who would you be?
Yeah.
And boy, that was it. And I started pondering on that, and that's how we came up with the idea.
That's so interesting. It feels like such a odd, circuitous. I mean, who'd have thought that suggestion would be even taken seriously? And here you are with this second season pickup and all this praise for this amazing show.
Thank you. Well, there's a lot of people involved with this. I created the show with David Shore from House fame. And now we have a different showrunner, and that's Graham Yost. And he took the reins and has done a magnificent job. My producing partner, James Degas, and I, we're relentless. We just want to keep pursuing those stories that are compelling to us. Mm-hmm. And that's what we sniff out like pigs on a truffle.
And your role as both creator and executive producer, I mean, what exactly does that entail? How much writing does that entail?
Quite a lot. Wrote the first pilot episode with David. And what it entails most is the guidance. So you're reading every outline and noting, you're reading every draft of every episode and noting. you're pitching different ideas and different avenues, and you're looking at casting, and you're giving opinions on directors, and so there's just a tremendous amount of work to be done. It's enjoyable work, but it is time consuming and sometimes frustrating, sometimes just exhausting.
Sure.
But in the long run, you look back and you go, look what we get to do. You know, as human beings and in our lifespan, we can probably remember dragging a book to our parents' lap and having them tell us a story. And that's the glorious thing about human beings. And if you're very lucky, you can grow up to become not only ones who receive stories, but tell stories. And I think that's the luckiest job there is, because all human beings want to be told a story. And if you can fulfill that need and surprise them and scare them and make them think, make them laugh, what a joy.
What a joy. I agree.
No, I was just going to say that human beings are really remarkable entities. You know, that you think that you know them until you dive into the psyche and you realize, really, they're good beings. And they so want to be told a story that they're willing to put up really hard-earned money in order to be told that story, knowing full well those who are on stage or on screen are actors and not the real people. It doesn't matter. Just tell me a good story and I'll follow you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and speaking of acting, you, correct me if I'm wrong, you were not initially planning on appearing in every episode of the show as an actor, and you were just meant to be a guest in episode 1?
Well, that's correct. It took a different route as well. We first sold the series to CBS,
right,
and made a pilot for CBS, and they decided not to buy it. And we were able to then shop it somewhere else. And when we were shopping it elsewhere and took it to Amazon first, and they really liked it, but wanted to just turn the dial a little bit on the tension and drama, and turn it into a serialized format as opposed to a procedural. So we introduced an actual character that became an antagonist for Giovanni Ribisi's character. And it seemed appropriate to materialize that person, have it become real, so that a real threat, not just one that we hear about. And so I said, we have no time. In the interest of time, we have 3 weeks before we have to shoot this. I will throw myself in. Let's just, so we don't have to waste any time casting. Let's go. And Graham liked the idea, and so we went. And I told him, I said, look, as the producer, I'm saying to you, I'm supporting you in whatever you want to do. If you think that this character should be in every single episode, then put him in every single episode. If you think he should be in every other episode, then do that. Whatever, I'm going to follow your lead.
Interesting, because it was not a concerted effort necessarily. You've said it's all downhill from Walter White. You've said that in interviews before. So this sounds like it wasn't necessarily planned as the next step in terms of jumping back into a series, right?
Correct. You know, the life of a producer is often at the mercy of calling audibles, you know, where you see one thing going one way. And I saw an opportunity to keep this show alive and to give it as much of a chance to succeed. And we needed to produce that character. And it was like, it seems to me that I am the best candidate to do that right now.
So take us through step by step. How does an actor win an Emmy Award?
How does an actor win an Emmy Award? By hitching your wagon to really good writing. That's the first thing. And by not wanting to win an Emmy Award.
Okay, good. You
don't do the work in order to win anything.
Sure, right.
If you're focused on this will get me this, then you're doing it for all the wrong reasons.
Totally. And so, I mean, I've been asking a couple actors this question about the about the awards side of things. And it's true that, of course, it is always about the work, and the awards part are almost a bonus. And I'm wondering, how do you approach the campaigning part of it? And is the purpose of that to just raise awareness for the show and to, like you say, share that storytelling with the world and get it on a bigger platform?
Well, at first I had some pushback to the idea of campaigning for any award. But then I realized, marketing is all about awareness. You could do tremendous work on a production and you're very proud of a show. And yet, if no one knows about it, what's the purpose? What was the point?
Yeah, sure.
If you don't do everything you possibly can to get the word out and draw attention to it, then you're spinning your wheels. So I quickly came to realize this is about the health and welfare of the show, of the series. And if they're using me as the lead in that series, as the hood ornament, well, okay. Yeah. And that was my position. I was the lead of the show. Okay, so let's go. Let's charge ahead and do what we can to draw attention to the show. And maybe we'll get to stay on for a few years.
Right.
And if it does hit, as Breaking Bad did, it then takes on an energy of its own. And it rolls. It comes as the character became iconic and the show was revered. It became sort of its own avalanche.
Yeah.
And you can't stop it. You can't do anything. You just, at the end of it, I just had to step out of the way so that I wouldn't get crushed by the abundance of attention toward it.
Yeah.
Which I was grateful for on one end. And on the other side, you go, well, what is going to be my life after Breaking Bad? And,
sure.
You just have to let it be what it is and then think of new avenues to explore.
Absolutely. And you certainly did that with All the Way, both on the Broadway stage and then in the HBO movie. And congratulations on your Tony Award for that performance as well.
Well, once again, the secret is more, I feel like I'm the wagon master. I get up on there and I hitch my wagon to really strong horses. And the analogy is that the strong horses is the depth and breadth and wisdom of really talented writers. So I leave Vince Gilligan and go to Robert Schenken, who wrote All the Way, which his play was brilliant, and it won the Tony as well. Mm-hmm. And it makes performers look like geniuses, because we just follow the written word that's so well crafted and thought through. So there it is. If you can run your career by following really well written material, you will rarely, if at all, be disappointed.
What was the last TV show you watched? Or what are you currently watching?
Saul, Better Call Saul, cool. Because I love it. It's
good answer.
There's a familiarity to it, and yet there's it goes into different directions with different characters that I'm not familiar with.
Absolutely.
But you can't mistake the genius of Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould and what they've been able to craft there, and Bob Odenkirk is crushing it, and Michael McKean, my friend from All the Way, and we're just having a great time watching this. And as a matter of fact, I'm having dinner tonight with Vince, and cool. I would just have to remind him not to say anything, because I want to be a fan. I don't want to have any inside scoop. So
that's so cool. Who is your favorite actor?
Oh, I don't know. If you give a quick answer to that, then you go, I should have said, or I should have added.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many that I'm influenced by, and it's not any one person that I go, I'd like to pattern myself after this person. But if I was forced to say that, I would probably say something about patterning myself out of an entire life in the arts. How you carry yourself in front of the camera and behind the camera, and what kind of personal life do you maintain? And Tom Hanks comes to mind in that regard. Not only for his work, but how he approaches the work and how he appreciates the work.
Sure.
And I've felt that as well. And he and I have talked about that, about how lucky we are to be able to do what we do.
Well, thank you so much for sharing about the things you love and for giving us your wisdom.
Well, I don't know about that. It was a nice chat, though. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bryan, for taking the time.
You bet. Bye-bye.
That was a nice chat with Bryan Cranston.
Beautifully segued.
TV god. Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
I know. When you said that we had an interview with Bryan Cranston, I was like, no.
Right? Okay, and here's the other thing that listeners, that Jamie and I have in store for you. We have more of our interview with Bryan Cranston. He has a lot of very specific advice about auditioning and his audition philosophy, which kind of came to him in an epiphany, and he says really changed not just his attitude towards approaching the acting industry, but also his actual results in booking jobs. And that is going to be saved for a bonus episode to come later. I'm already so excited about it.
Let's just hope no one's got any important auditions between now and then, or they're going to be tearing their hair out in anticipation.
That's so true. I'm really sorry to all the listeners who have some big audition lined up. In the meantime, we have more to come from In the Envelope. We have some very exciting guests next week who also have insights. Don't you worry, actors, working actors. We feel for you. We're here for you.
We can't give it all away.
That's right.
Straight away.
You
Got to tease it a little bit.
Week after week.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions or comments for us or for any of the artists that we are talking to on our podcast, join us on Facebook or Twitter at Backstage and ask any questions you may have about the acting industry, about the Emmys, whether that be for myself or for Jamie, for anyone at Backstage, or for any of these guests who I can't yet reveal the remainder of our guests. But chime in. We would love to hear from you. Thank you to this week's special guests for our special episode, Alan Yang and Bryan Cranston. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe for more interviews from the front lines of the 2017 Emmy race. In the Envelope is recorded at Lotus Productions and Hyperbolic Audio in New York City. Thanks, as always, to producer Jamie Muffett. You can follow him on Twitter at JamieMusicNYC. I am Jack Smart. You can follow me on Twitter at JackSmartWrites. Thank you to the team at Backstage, aka the most trusted name in casting, Peter Rappaport, Ryan Remstad, Jesse Balashak, Francis Ramos, Rawaan Alkhatib, and especially the exquisite Kasey Howe. For more awards and industry coverage, head over to Backstage.com. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another glimpse in the Envelope.